Hello, and welcome to the Naftiko Capabilities Podcast. My name is Ken Lane. I'm the Chief Community Officer here at Naftiko, but you might also know me as the API Evangelist, where I've been talking about the technology, business, and politics of APIs. This is my new podcast. We're about 3 or 4 weeks in, trying to keep these to every Tuesday and every Thursday, but just 15 or 20 minutes, trying to keep them short. Sometimes I mix different folks talking about a different topic and have one or two or three guests. But sometimes I just have one. And this is another one of those episodes where one topic, one guest. I sat down with Fran Mendez of AsyncAPI fame, but now he's off building a new startup called Commune, where he's looking to tackle the email newsletter challenge that's occurring out there right now. So I sat down with Fran. I wanted to learn more about, kind of get the backstory on AsyncAPI and fill in some of the gaps as he's moving on to his new startup. So I started with the basics. Why did he create AsyncAPI?
Because I was young and pretty. No, actually, is the I had a need. Let's say I was building an event-driven architecture. Back in time, I was at working at API Changelog, what then became Hitch, and we were building an event-driven architecture internally, um, based on RabbitMQ as a broker, and our product was pretty much about OpenAPI. So we were very well versed on OpenAPI and working with specs for APIs, right? But I found out that even though it was very similar, the whole process of crafting a new service for RabbitMQ for consuming and publishing events and so on, it was very similar to calling APIs and building APIs and so on. There was nothing like that. And I was repeating myself all the time, build repeating the same structure for the code. Uh, I will say like 80% of the code was always the same. Just a little bit of business logic was changing in different services, but most of the code was always the same, which is like the boilerplate code for connecting to the broker, consuming from specific topic, um, processing the message, publishing a message, and all this stuff. So except the business part logic, everything was the same all the time. So yeah, every time I was building a new service, I was like again repeating myself all the time. And I found myself copy pasting a lot, documenting manually. Um, there was no way to check if the messages we were receiving were well structured or not. We were using JavaScript, so there were no types. So yeah, we didn't have even that kind of type safety. So yeah, and then I thought like, okay, let's just clone OpenAPI. Well, first of all, I actually started using OpenAPI for events. So I just assumed that get means subscribe, post, publish, and yeah, and forget some other things. So I hacked it. But yeah, like for documentation, it was working very decently, but for the rest of the things, it was not working at all. So I decided to clone OpenAPI and started reading it from top to bottom a few times and changing the things that didn't make sense to me for events. And yeah, and that's how it came to be.
Async API is one of those specs that just kind of arose out of trying to solve a real problem. I was there in the early days. I watched it come from idea to actually being a spec, and I think it's where the best specs come from is that place where you're just trying to solve a problem, fill a need, and you want to make it happen. Now, I think it's easy to see Async API as a success, but I wanted to understand it from Fran's perspective. So I asked him specifically, does he feel like Async API was a success?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is so, I will say it's so overwhelming the success that yeah, it is already like too much to me. Like after 10 years is actually I decided to quit this year, to leave the organization, to let's say to disconnect from AsyncAPI a little bit. Perhaps I'll be back in the future, who knows? But yeah, like completely disconnect, even though I'm in the governance board right now. But yeah, quitting it because it's grown so much that yeah, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming the amount of things that it involves, let's say, and it's not about the spec anymore or the code anymore, right? It's about the community management, the the whole human thing around building communities and paperwork and relationships and travels and so on. So it's yeah, it's too much.
I get it. That's why I wanted to sit down with Fran and get this story and kind of talk about it and share with other folks because it's a lot. So I asked him though, for more detail on like what are those expectations that get put on you when you not just create a spec, but once it starts getting traction and actually becomes a success.
I would say always expect that people are like 10 years behind you in regards of specs and this kind of technologies. Sure, there are some people who are probably uh let's say more advanced than you in the whole journey. But in general, since you're working on a very specific niche and a very specific thing, which is a spec or an API spec, most people will be like even wondering why this is even needed, how does it even work, and all these kind of questions. So, and once you answer these questions, they still have to find, let's say, the need to use it. So probably they won't find it. Uh, so assume that you will be like, yeah, assuming that that the future is going this direction, you are how you said that, like you are 10 years up front, how you
Yeah.
say that?
Yeah.
So not so yeah. And not everyone will understand what you're talking about, basically. And your needs and your problems, the problems that you have, are usually not the problems that people are having. People are having completely different set of problems. You are too far from them in that regard because you are only working on that, right? So that's normal. That's why it happens. And financially, that's another thing. Uh, I recently learned, well, it's going to be a year now. I learned that AsyncAPI's value, net worth, I would say, would be like 34 million for $34 million. I don't have $34 million. Let me start there.
Sure. Wink, wink. Sure. You've got it under your bed somewhere in a
Oh, sorry, too
suitcase or
much
something.
money. I cannot hold it. Too much money. Uh, so yeah, I don't have that money. I don't even have one, just to clarify. So I'm far from one actually. So what I'm saying yeah, so probably is that, well, let me reframe it. So I was actually very lucky in my journey with this KPI. I don't know how I did it, or if I did it at all, or it happened to me. But I was lucky enough to be working for companies who were betting on the project on AsyncAPI and putting a lot of money on the table to hire people. Like when we were at Postman working together, we were at some point we were 12 people in my team, on the AsyncAPI team. So that's a lot of money. Uh, that's not the usual thing, right? That's very rare. And they were asking nothing in return, so I was not selling the spec to them or the project to them. So that's very, very rare. Um, in general, what I'm finding is that people are struggling to even make a salary, to even make a half a salary, I will say. Um, so yeah. So expect that unless you are touching on a very specific thing that people want to invest their money on, or you're very good at selling, um, then you're not gonna make a lot of money. So, but but probably this will be creating a lot of value for companies. They just won't give you the money, not easily, right? And again, I'm not, in my case, it's actually, I will say, a strange case. I was able to actually drive a lot of money towards AsyncAPI, thanks to you as well. So so yeah, but that's very rare. And yeah, I would say that, yeah, that financially speaking, it's very hard to make an impact, to make money, even if you're making an impact. And I'm not sure if it's because of the open source model or not, honestly. Because yeah, some people will say like for instance with this KPI, its value is, yeah, it's calculated to be $34 million. Cool, but is it $34 million because I made it open?
Yeah.
Right? Or it's because it's value. Like if I chose to make it closed and sell it to MuleSoft when I had the opportunity, and or or other companies, um, will it be so valuable, or would have happened that people will have created another option, another alternative, open alternative, right? Um, you never know. So I chose, because of my ideals of how I think the world should be, I chose to make it open, independently of how much money this will give me or not give me. Uh, so so yeah, it's really difficult to say. I'm just saying that it's not necessarily linked. Like if you make it close, probably you make a lot of shitload of money, right? But people, uh, even if it doesn't become a standard, probably. But then we're talking about products and startups and selling an idea and selling a tool or selling whatever. But you're selling a company basically. It's a different game altogether. So it has nothing to do with this.
There's a lot of different paths you can take when trying to build a standard, and that's kind of why I want to. I've been talking to folks who are doing standards and understanding it, because we're kind of in an explosion of standards out there, and there's a lot of people creating them, and I don't think everyone fully understands what the game that they're getting into, or that they're aware there's different paths that you can take, as Fran said. So I asked him what advice he has for folks who are looking to create a new standard or have regarding what this journey looks like.
I don't know if it's an advice, but I will say a recommendation is um, always try to drive the use cases or the changes or the things that you add to the spec if you start implementing it or writing it. Start from a use case, right? So from a real use case, and if it's possible, uh, from a use case that's been repeated in the industry, right? Like that many people are a problem, an issue, a need that many people are having, not just because it's possible, and because it's possible it's cool, right? Um, so I guess here applies the same things as with product development. That it's the same thing. Like we've heard during years, product owners, product managers saying that, yeah, like before adding a feature to a product, we should actually research and see if someone is going to use it and going to need it if it's going to make an impact in the product and the business. Same here. Um, Before you start the spec, before you add a new feature or a new capability to the spec and so on, figure out if it's something that someone is going to need, and always default to um, not having things, let's say, or having less powerful things, because it's easier to be adding over time than to be removing over time, right? Removing features is a pain. Changing them completely is a pain because you added them too early. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a specification becomes bedrock, and removing things from it gets a lot more difficult as it grows. That's why we do semantic versioning. But I think anybody who's created and managed an API knows this firsthand. If you've consumed APIs, you know what a problem it can be when things are changed or things are removed or breaking changes, or you have to make that migration from a major release. I think we saw that with Swagger from 2.0 to 3.0, where it became Open API. And there's a lot you have to think about. And I don't think we're always honest about this and having a conversation as we should. And Fran definitely has that firsthand knowledge and experience from the 2.0 to 3.0 for Async API. I think you can see a lot of evidence of how much work actually goes into this. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks, Fran, for coming by. I got more from Fran down the road. We'll talk more about Commune and his email newsletter and another one. But thanks for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoyed it. Appreciate it. One last thing while I got you. I wanted to talk about my Naftiko Signals program. This is where I'm gathering data from about 75 enterprises right now. Pulling all their job postings, press releases, blog posts, GitHub repos, and gathering signals about what they're investing in, what services they're using, and finding some interesting insights I'm happy to share with folks. But I'm looking for people to talk to. I want to talk to other enterprises, some of the ones we're already looking at, but other ones about, and validate what they're actually investing in and what they're seeing and what matters right now in this AI era that we find ourselves in. So anyways, reach out to me. I'd love to hear what you're building, what your priorities are, what you need. And you can reach me on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, or just email me, kinlane@naftiko.io. Appreciate it.